Hello, and welcome back to This Day in History, our nightly look back at a specific day in history, where we take a look back at the events of a day, the historic context in which those events took place, and the historic ramifications of those events. As always, if you have not yet, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell notification icon to be alerted anytime I post new content, and tell a friend. And without any further ado, This Day in History, September 6th. And on this day, in 1901, President William McKinley was shot in the Temple of Music at the Pan American Expo in Buffalo, New York, at 4:07 by Leon Shulgolt. Shulgolt, an anarchist, would be executed 7 weeks later for his crimes. The president, McKinley, would die 8 days later, on the 14th, from injuries suffered in the attack. McKinley's death would prompt and promote to the office of president his vice president, Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt was serving his first term as vice president. McKinley's first vice president, Hobart, had died in office. Roosevelt had been put on the ticket by New York political bosses after he had served as governor. They were increasingly concerned by his progressive agenda and believed that the best place they could put him was in the vice presidency because no one would ever hear from him again there. Upon learning of the death of McKinley, one person is to have remarked, "Oh my, that madman is now president." Roosevelt would embark on a progressive, bold agenda over his presidency and usher in a new era of executive action and abilities, and really embody the modern presidency. Roosevelt would run for re-election to a full term in 1904 and would leave office in 1908, serving almost 7 years, the 4 years of his own term, and almost the entirety of the second term of President McKinley. McKinley was the last president not to be assigned Secret Service protection permanently. Roosevelt would be the first. Also, McKinley was the third president assassinated. The first, Lincoln in 1865, Garfield in 1881, and of course McKinley in 1901, followed 62 years later by President Kennedy in Dallas in November of 1963.